Hello, humans. Today, I want to talk about some cases that are related to gender fluidity, which, there are not a lot of cases that I've found, but I have a few. Before I move on to the cases, this person here is Qiu Jin, who was a Chinese revolutionary woman and poet and, um, you know, critic of society, and she did a lot of really interesting things, and she got executed for it at, I don't know how old she was, but under 40. Anyway, she sometimes cross-dressed. On the left, she's wearing more traditional clothes of the late Qing dynasty and on of men, and on the right she's wearing I'm sorry, she's wearing a Western type suit. So she also is photographed in women's clothing. Yeah, she was a very interesting person. And so, anyway, that's just here because I like her, and one of my cats is named after her. Okay. So I want the slide turned. There we go. Okay. So most of these cases come from actually not from medical texts, but from the genre of books. Sorry, the genre of books called Tales of the Strange. I've got one from a medical book, I think, but most of these are from Tales of the Strange, which are collections of stories that might be about foxes or ghosts or other kinds of strange things. And so they thought people with gender fluidity were quite unusual. They probably were at that time. Anyway, so this one is from a book called something like Record of Searching for Spirits. So at a certain time, in like the 290s, there was an 8-year-old girl named Jo is her family name, and she gradually transformed into a boy. When they reached 17 or 18 years of age, their chi and nature were fully developed. By the time they grew up, they had transformed from a girl to a male. But, however, the transformation away from a female body was not complete, and the development of a male body was not thorough. So because now he's living as a man, he took a wife, but they never had children. Okay, so is this just a, transgender um, child, or is this someone who had some kind of physical, I mean, we don't know how this person identified. Well, it seems they identified as a male, they dressed like a male, they acted like a male, but we don't know, for example, what was going on with their physical body so much. We just know they started dressing like a male and taking on a male role. So yeah, okay, that's interesting. And this description seems non-judgmental. It's just telling what happened. It's not saying this is good. It's not saying this is bad. So, okay. Here's a longer story. A daughter of the Wen family. In the fourth, oh, so this is from a different book called Record of the Listener. This book is actually, all of these books are translated into English. What I basically do is, like some of these books, I find like a translation in English, and then if I find an interesting story, I go back and find the Chinese text and I retranslate it for myself. So these are my translations, but these books are also available in English. So a daughter of the Wen family. In the fourth lunar month of 1167, a daughter in the Wen family reached the age of pinning up her hair, which means, they change hairstyles when they're of a marriageable age, and that age is 15 generally. And so she, families already make alliances a long time before that, usually, and she was already promised and she was going to get married, she was engaged. But 2 nights before the wedding, she had a dream. She dreamed someone wearing yellow clothes led her into a government office. The presiding judge wore green robes and a head wrap, like a turban kind of a thing. He received her and said, "We need you. We needed you to come here because there was a mistake in the official documents. There has been a big ongoing lawsuit for 15 or 16 years. Remember, she's just 15. Many people have been caught up in it. For now, you should return home, but come back tomorrow." So she woke up and she told her parents about the dream, but they said, I don't know. The next night, had been told to come back, so she again dreamed that she was in a palace. The king came and occupied his desk, and the presiding judge carried in the official documents. The king decided the case and said, "Correct it." Then someone brought the Wen daughter a cup of a decoction, which she drank right there in the royal court, but it stank and disgusted her. Yep, that sounds about like an herbal decoction. By the time she had gone out the door of the government building, and by the time she woke up, she had transformed into a man. Her parents were startled and they sent a report to their future son in law. The family, though, of the son in law thought that she probably had never been a girl and that they had somehow been swindled because, when you get married, there's like a bride price that you pay to the family of the girl that you're marrying or the woman. They're so young, they're 15, they're almost like girls. Yeah. Um, so they thought they'd been swindled and they sued the family. The case was investigated, but when the truth came out, the case was settled. When speech and manner of bearing remained unchanged from when she was a girl, so she still kind of talked like a girl, but the only change was now she wore men's clothing. The family of the would-be son-in-law then wanted to marry their daughter to her or him, to when he or she or they. So now that now that she's transed into becoming a male, then they wanted to marry their daughter. So again, there's not a lot of judgment here. It's just reporting the facts. It's not saying, oh, this is horrible or this is a bad omen. It's just reporting the facts. There are other cases, though, which I don't include, where they're very judgmental. Okay. I think this is the last one. This is from a Qing Dynasty book that's based on a Song Dynasty book with additions to it. So this is an addition to the Song Dynasty book that's usually called Washing Away Wrongs, which is the first forensic manual in the history of the world, not just in the history of China. But this wasn't in the original book. This was in the additions to it. It's right here. And so anyway, there was a case in Wu County. Somebody named Wang was the wife of somebody named Ma, and she spent the night having illicit sex with someone named Zhou, who was the wife of someone named Jin. Okay, so these two married women spent the night having illicit sex. So they, were caught. Probably one or both of the husbands were angry. And so they examined and interrogated the women. But when they interrogated the one named Joe, since childhood, she had had a soft, fleshy rod inside her birth gate, inside her genitals. This fleshy rod did not get in the way of having intercourse with her husband, but it could become erect and it jutted out 2 or 3 inches long and as wide as a thumb. And so because she had this, she could have illicit sex with women. So this sounds like an intersex person. Yeah, it sounds like an intersex person. And probably this didn't end well for her. But that's as far as the story goes. It doesn't say what they ended up doing about it. If you're curious about this kind of stuff, there is a book that came out recently. I think it came out in 2024, maybe it came out in late 23, called The Fox Spirit, the Stone Maiden, and Other Transgender Histories from Late Imperial China by Matthew Summer. And he has some other interesting books too. But this is all about transgender and other kinds of gender fluidity in late imperial China. But I do warn you that, I picked out cases that were non-judgmental, but it was not an easy life for people who were caught living, especially for men who were caught living as women. It was not easy. So he discusses both women who lived as men and men who lived as women, but this book is kind of depressing, but it's well researched. So anyway, those are my cases for today.